What do you think is the appropriate length of a voice note?
I think it has to be less than 15 seconds, and then it has
15 seconds is pretty fast.
It's pretty fast, yeah.
That you can't even get, because you can speed them up.
Yeah.
On IG, you can speed them up. I think 30 seconds.
But it has to be a joke.
But I guess it's 15 seconds too, because 30 seconds and then you speed it up 2 times. It's 15 seconds.
Yeah, it has to be 15 seconds.
Man, our attention span is terrible.
Done. And it has to be funny. Like, if it's not funny, then
or a good
me.
story.
Yeah, or a good story.
So if I'm telling you a story, first of all, if the story is dry, I'm gonna make it better. And I'm gonna chop it up where I'm only telling you the hits.
I think that's called saison. Right?
Yeah. See, a lot of times,
man, he know.
I don't want to make this a gender thing, but I feel like when some of you ladies tell stories, you kind of go overboard with the details. Sometimes I'll have a man tell me a story like that, and nothing makes me
draw it out.
Nothing makes me look at you like you're less of a man than drawing out a story with no beginning, middle,
a drawn out pointless story is treason.
That's my you're not a man.
Yeah.
Again, this is the story of the podcast. I say something outlandish and I gotta walk it back.
Yes.
To all the women who are listening to this, I do want to hear your stories.
Just
make it better.
What if they put it in a PowerPoint presentation?
I need it quick. What were you gonna say, Marty?
Men tell worse stories than women do.
Really?
Yes. I feel like I sit around.
Please expound.
Men more times than not, where they'll be like, because at least when girls tell stories, they'll walk it back in like a way that's almost funnier. Like they'll be like, okay, this clearly needs to start when I was 11 years old, because like it's just they'll walk it back.
My mind, if you say I gotta take you back to when I was 11 years old, my mind checks out. Unless you had some assault happen to you when you were 11 years old and you've now murdered the person that did it, that's the only reason you would have to take me back till 11.
I don't know. I feel like
you're gonna sit here with a straight face, Marty, and tell me that women tell better stories than men?
I think so.
This has to be an internet poll.
I don't know. I feel like men tend to tell stories with like like they don't say as much, but they say it at half the speed because they're used to being listened to.
Are these natural born men?
Oh my God. That's not a term.
Oh, it's not?
I just make that up.
I thought that was the politically correct term.
No, that's not a term.
What is the term?
Like male identifying.
That's what I'm saying. A sign at birth, right?
No, a sign at birth. Yeah, a sign at birth. Yeah, are these the stories?
I don't know. I don't ask people what they were assigned at birth, but I do know.
You don't?
Have I ever asked any of the three of you what you were assigned at birth?
I put it in my resume when I applied for this position.
Great.
I agree that I have come across, especially the last few days, I've come across a couple guys that tell these long, boring stories. I don't think, unless there was a death, a murder, a child, or a gender reassignment in your story, it shouldn't take longer than a minute.
Nah, it definitely shouldn't.
Maybe a robbery.
Yeah. And then you gotta make
celebrity.
Sure everybody's okay.
Yeah, that's it. Those are the only 6 things.
Yeah. Like you gotta chop it down to a minute. Like,
yeah, those are the only 6 things that could get you over 90 seconds on a storytelling.
Yeah, definitely.
See, now I'm just thinking of period stories.
Is that all you think about?
No, but it's in my head a lot recently. But I was thinking about I don't know. I feel like I've heard a bunch of women have told me the funniest stories I've ever. But if you're talking about just action-packed stories,
what woman told you the funniest story ever? Look, you can't even think of one.
My friend. Oh no, I told you this already. No, I can. They're just all period stories because that's what's in my head right now.
Here, I got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got one.
I haven't told.
First of all, who told it to you, man or woman?
No, this is my story.
Oh, you got a good story?
Yeah,
all right, start the clock.
So yeah, actually, okay. So this is a game we should play. So I'm gonna tell you guys 2 stories, and then Ian or APM, both of you guys could
rate it,
or just tell me how to go about telling the story.
How to chop it down?
Okay.
Make it better.
Wait, let Marty start the clock. You got the timer?
Oh shit! All right. So first one. All right, bet. So one night, me and my ex-girlfriend were gonna trip on acid. And
that's a good open. All right.
Yeah, so we're gonna trip on acid, and one of my homies was gonna come over and trip sit us, and we were just gonna split a tab, so both gonna take half or whatever. And it was raining outside. My homie, he's coming through with the bag of weed, so we can smoke later. And I had a pit bull at the time, and my homie, he usually we used to just keep the door unlocked at the house because homies would just come through and they wouldn't have to like knock and shit. It was just that kind of vibe. He's coming through the door, and my pit bull jumps on him, and he brought his knee up to like push him off of him. Right. And I guess my pit bull like saw that as a
attack,
like
aggression. Yeah,
like just like some, you know, it took it the wrong way, and he jumped at my friend and like bit him in the face and like ripped his cheek in half.
Oh.
And so the crazy part about this is that
There's
me
more?
and my ex, we had just put the half tab on our tongue, and 30 seconds later he walked through the door, my homie. So we weren't even like able to like not trip. Like we weren't halfway through the trip. We weren't at the end of it. We had just started.
Yeah.
Physically and metaphysically. Like, so yeah.
Stop the clock. All right, let's break down this story.
There's 2 minutes.
Where is that, first of all?
It was 1 minute 39 seconds. You should have started with your dog bit your friend's face.
I was going to,
No,
but
you shouldn't have. No, you shouldn't.
The acid was a good open.
You had to open the part, because then you had the callback.
Yeah.
You made people think that the dog bite. This is why men naturally just tell good stories.
Are you giving story
this
advice?
is why this is a good story. Let me break this down.
Break it down.
He opens up by saying we're tripping on acid.
Drugs.
So you think already you're like, okay, the story is about acid.
Yes.
But then he takes it away from that. That's planted in the background, but he takes it away from that, and it now becomes about his friend who came over with weed and gets bit in the face and half the face missing. Now, your friend getting bit in the face and having half his face missing, that story alone is enough.
Yes.
That's a good story on its own if you have to tell it. But then you're like, this story is crazy. Then he's like, that's not all. You're like,
wait.
There's more? Yeah. I had just started tripping on the acid, and you're like, the acid. I forgot about the acid. And you're like, then what happened? Then I'm tripping. My friend's face is bloody all over the place. And boom, you get that for all under 2 minutes. This is what I'm telling you, Marty. This is
it's incredible.
That was a great story.
You got to clip that up.
Great story.
And then did you call him like holy face while y'all were tripping? Like, what was the trip like?
It was, so we obviously we weren't tripping at like obviously right away, because it takes like about an hour to hit.
He still trips at y'all?
No, God no. Like so basically what happened is he starts obviously screaming because like his cheek is like hanging.
Right.
Yeah.
And so even crazier is across the street, one of our neighbors, they would always get into like
domestics?
Just like the cops would always be at the house type shit, and like, you know, for whatever reason. And the cops at that night just so happened to be at the house, and so my homie, he's outside of the house, my house, like screaming. He's like, you know, screaming bloody murder type shit. Yeah. And I'm over here telling him like, yo, bro, you need to calm down. Like the cops are over there. They're about to come over here and like try to see what's happening. He obviously is like screaming at me. He's like, how the fuck do you want me to calm down? Like
my face is missing
type shit, literally. And so I bring him into my house. My ex, she puts the dog in the room, and we're over here just like, you know, covering his face with like try to stop him from like bleeding out or whatever. And I call his cousin or his uncle, which is one of my homies also, and I tell him like, yo, this is what happened. You got to come over here and take him to the hospital because I'm tripping on acid. I can't drive.
Right.
And he's like,
is this pre-Uber time?
Yeah, this was actually during like, this is probably like a year before the pandemic, maybe. Or shit, I don't even know it anymore. It's probably right before the pandemic. But yeah, his uncle comes, picks him up, takes him to the hospital. Me and my ex just start obviously tripping, and I think before we like tried to clean up as much blood as we can like in the house, because there's blood everywhere.
See, any story where there's blood everywhere, minus your period stories, it's a great story.
It's a great story. Yeah.
But here's another thing that he used that I thought was beautifully implemented when it comes to telling a story. You see all this other stuff that he had to say. This would have added 90 seconds, maybe 2 more minutes to the story. But he didn't tell it right away. He left it for you to ask.
If you
ask me, I'll give you more.
You shall receive.
But if it were a woman telling the story, shout out to all the women who tell stories.
One time.
They might have included that in it.
They probably would have opened with it.
I disagree with he shouldn't have started, because I think it depends on the context in which you're telling that story. Like, you're telling the story to like a group of people, so you can start at the beginning of the story. But if you're telling the story like you need to get someone's attention quickly,
acid,
you have to start with the hook of the story.
Which is the acid.
Like, if you need to get someone's attention quickly, you could start with my dog bit my friend's face off.
But
No,
the
that's-
story has multiple levels.
Yes.
And you're trying to you're building suspense. People want to go on roller coasters.
Yes.
People want their emotions
Played with,
Yeah,
toyed
that's
with.
what they want. They want to be like,
And then, no.
and I think that when you tell a story, you want people to have questions about it. So you got to leave strategic parts out of it because people want to hear themselves talk. That's why we have a podcast. That's why everybody has a podcast. People want to hear themselves talk. So you have to give them room for them to feel like they're part of your story by asking questions.
Engagement, that's what they call it.
Yes. I just still I think that there's two types of storytelling that
the
are
mankind
strong.
and the womankind.
No, I don't think because I feel like there's a lot of times, because if you can land a punchline of a story or you can land the end of a story, to me, it doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes long because you're valuing it being short.
5 minutes, Marty, it has to be, you got to have roller coaster things like what he said. It has to be like, and then my dog bit his face, and then his face was bleeding. He hooked onto his balls, ripped the balls off. Now he got no face, no balls. My girl get mad. She try to fight the dog. The dog get up on 2 feet.
And box her because
I
the
didn't even
dogs
know
are
the dog
acid
could throw
too.
hands.
Yeah,
but my girl, she got hands too. So she swing at the dog duck.
Yep.
He hook, she bite the dog.
Yep.
Now the dog missing the ear. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even know I was dating Mike Tyson. So now I'm scared of my girl. I'm running out the house. I'm on acid. Everyone bleeding. There's blood all over the place. I go into the street. My neighbors, they're boxing. I'm like, yo, my dog in there, he boxing my girl. They don't believe me. I'm like, come in the house. I come in the house. There's no blood. The dog cleaned the blood up.
And left.
The dog cleaned the blood up. See, if this is your story,
Engaged.
that's a good story.
Everybody's engaged.
Everybody listening to this stuff right
And the
now
dog
are
left.
like, yo, this is a good story.
Yeah.
And if it didn't happen, you exaggerate and you lie because you value me as a person.
I think that's what missing. That's what is mostly missing from women's story is
They don't lie.
the extra
Ladies, you gotta lie and
in a
really
story.
sell it.
Yeah.
Gauge the person. When you're telling the story, look at the person and see if they look bored. You gotta lie.
You gotta add some color.
lying.
Add some color.
Start lying
Add
in
some
your story.
color.
You gotta
Yeah.
bring me back. How good was that dog story? You come back in the house, the dog cleaned everything up. He's in his cage like nothing happened.
And your girl bit the dog.
Your girl bit the dog. She's laid out. Your friend is missing half his cheek, one of his balls.
He looked like Two-Face.
Both on the opposite sides.
Yep.
His left cheek and his right ball.
Yep.
Telling stories for different reasons. Like, obviously, the story you just told was like a video game.
It's a you know what they make video games out of? Great stories.
Grand Theft Auto 6
That's what they
coming
make video
soon.
games and movies out
Yep.
of. Great stories.
Yep.
You gotta know how to tell a great story.